There are mythical and folklore creatures that have been appearing in video games so many times that each of them has already become a cliché. Except for the dragons, because they are always in fashion, apparently. There are creatures that are not widely known and they rarely appear in games. And then there are some creatures that are so obscure and cryptic that you probably didn't know they exist. Until this video. They can't hide from me and now from you.
Hi, I am Not-a-witchr, but in this video I will track down some secret creatures that populate our games without us even knowing it. It's not evening yet, but where I'm going I'll need all the light I can get.
Have you ever explored a dungeon or a cave full of unknown dangers and unimaginable horrors, just to find yourself contemplating who is lighting all these torches and candles? In almost every game where you go deep underground, those places are lit enough so you can orient yourself and see where you're going. We accept it mostly without noticing it, because we live in the era of motion detecting lights, or at least intuitively placed light switches. But in the fantasy games where electricity is not a thing, the dark places underground should probably be dark like completely, right? In The Witcher, the first game about Geralt, the dark places are really dark, and you have to use the cat potion to see something. In The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, the dark places are not that dark because the cat eyes of Geralt are finally working even without the potion, apparently, but still pretty dark. In Assassin's Creed Origins, Bayek is the one who has to light everything himself. And that's it. If you can remember other games where it is really dark underground, please let me know in the comments. Like, for real. But thanks to the ever-lit torches and candles and sometimes bioluminescent fungi, we don't have to bring our own light sources when exploring deep places in games. And if the case with fungi is self-explanatory, those artificial light sources have to be lit by someone, right? And for that we have the light creepers to thank. Yes, I haven't misspoke. The light creepers, also known as ignitabulum tenebrarum. These little devils are so sneaky that no one has ever seen them, and these images are just artistic interpretations of my ramblings. And it is most likely not a one creature, but a whole network of them. Because there are so many caves and dungeons to be lit. How could a one entity be in so many places simultaneously? Even Santa has his goblins to help sometimes. I'm sorry, I really can't force myself to call them elves. But back to the light creepers. It is possible that they first emerged in the old fantasy movies, where all the torches also needed to be lit, and then by the end of 20th century they spread to video games and multiplied. They do their important work almost everywhere, except for Skyrim's tombs populated by the Draugr. Because there is a book in the game that explains what's going on in those barrows. The book is called Amongst the Draugr, and its author tells how she observed as every day a different set of Draugr would awaken, shamble their way to the sarcophagus of their priest and prostrate themselves before it. Several hours of this, followed by a meticulous cleaning of the area. Now I feel a bit ashamed because even the undead cleanse their habitat every day. But most importantly, they are the ones who light all the candles and torches in the tombs. This is what gamers concluded a decade ago already. Nobody explains why the undead Draugr need those lights in the tombs, probably just a ritual that has lost its original meaning ages ago, like human sacrifices that just fell out of fashion in our world for obvious reasons. Apparently not for everybody. So okay, not in Skyrim, but everywhere else the light creepers do their best to keep the sufficient illumination of underground facilities, no matter how long ago they were forgotten. Just think that if the visitors will not be satisfied, it might just destroy the reputation of the place. So the poor creatures have their work cut out for them, as more and more games come out every year, and soon it could be a real problem for the light creepers community.
So, time to unionize, little guys.
Have you ever wondered how can your character in a game carry all that loot and remain so agile at the same time? Especially in the games where the inventory is unlimited. It's simple. they just don't. There is another useful but never seen creature that follows the player character everywhere, and when you pick up some resource or an item that you don't want to carry on yourself, the invisible vault goblin, also known as Coloborum thesauri invisibilis, is there to help. The picture shows one of them near your backpack. It is, as the name suggests, invisible. So, as I said, when you pick up some resource or an unnecessary item, without even realizing it, you give the item to the little helpful creature, and they immediately carry it to the safety of your vault, or their own vault if you don't have one, and later, when you need the item, they are eager to return it immediately. You are so used to having them around that you don't even think of them. You know, like the downstairs people in Downton Abbey. The invisible vault goblin is so fast that they must have some time-space hacks or some really powerful magic to be able to keep up with your looting. But thanks to that, this creature allows us to concentrate on what's important in games, like following the little foxes to pet them after you visit the secret shrine. And all that suits of armor that are always somewhere near at the length of your reach, but never in your backpack or your saddlebags. The invisible vault goblin really revolutionized inventory management of modern games. They are not to be mistaken for their closest relatives, the vault goblins, also known as the Gringotts Bank employees. For this, they are invisible as their name suggests, and also for your convenience. Try not to think about them next time you change your undergarments. Some may say that the unlimited inventory is the result of our modern technology and our need in that all things that matter were inside our own interface. But the invisible vault goblin is much older than you think. How do you believe the medieval rich people carried their money? Imagine that you need 1,000 pounds of gold right now for an impulse purchase. What would you do? Send a raven? 1,000 pounds of anything is a serious request. I even suspect that these creatures somehow are responsible for the Bitcoin invention. I can't prove it yet, but you can't convince me otherwise.
Thank you, Wilbrahams. That'll be all.
Do you like mysteries? Specifically, do you like finding out what happened in abandoned places long before you stumble upon them in games? And if nobody is around, how else could you learn what have transpired here if not through the written messages that very often just happen to lie around waiting to be discovered by the player? Well, you could ask the dead with a spell, but if you are not in Baldur's Gate 3, what then? And in many games, this is how we find answers to many questions, by reading the letters or the logbooks or the diaries. And now tell me, do you know many fantasy games where the NPCs are illiterate? Like the real medieval commoners would be 99% of the time. Not that many, right? Why is that? I'll tell you why. Not because those peasants attended schools, and not because they have an internal need to spill their thoughts and feelings on paper. It's because in time of need, those NPCs were visited by the helpful scribe, also known as scriptor adjutabilis, a benevolent spirit that is always ready to write down all the important messages of those bandits, goblins, or even farmers, and without it we wouldn't have those mysteries revealed to us so conveniently. Have you noticed that all those letters and diaries always have the same handwriting, easily read by anyone? Remember your doctor's handwriting? Imagine your doctor lying in some dark cave, losing blood from their wounds and waiting for the inevitable to come. Think it would improve their calligraphy? This is why we need the helpful scribe, the creature that is always there for all your stationary needs, be that the last will of a bandit or a diary of a farmer. And they always have the best quality paper. It lasts for decades, sometimes centuries, even in damp caves or dungeons filled with whatever eats paper. So the helpful scribe comes, ready to take dictation and immortalize the words of desperate NPCs. With free of charge paper that could otherwise cost a monthly income of a farmer, and nobody seems to be scared of them or even amazed by their existence. For that, the helpful scribe must possess a very benign appearance and calming presence, and be instantly forgotten after the execution of the scribing task. However, that raises the question, what about those cases when you find correspondence between two bandits, for example? Does it mean that the helpful scribe also comes when they need to read the written word? Because illiteracy usually works both ways, or doesn't work, no matter. Should that mean that a separate entity exists for that purpose, like the helpful reader? I mean, who would believe that?
So that is my catch of the day, and if you have any other creatures that lurks in our games without being accounted for, please do share in the comments. So thank you for watching, please consider subscribing if you like videos like this. I am still Not-a-witchr, and as always take care and farewell.